Here's the number one reason that you shouldn't buy this radio if you are a pinch flyer. Hey there, folks. It's Joshua from the future again, and I've done you guys a big favor. I know how you hate it when Joshua just talks and talks and looks at the camera, and, you just want to see the product, right? So you're really going to like this. What I did is I went back in time, and I flipped some of the bits in his head camera footage so that the file was corrupted, and you're going to love this part. He spent $70 on a piece of software that's supposed to recover corrupted MP4 files. It didn't work. So if there's a couple parts of this video where there's just like nothing on the bench and he's just talking to the thin air, that's why. If there's a couple parts of the video where it just looks like he's doing something with his hands and it's because you weren't supposed to see that part. Joke's on him. Enjoy the review. I'm Joshua Bardwell, and you're going to learn something today about the FrSky X-Lite. This is it, FrSky X-Lite. It is a new transmitter from FrSky. Well, it's not exactly new. I mean, it's new-ish. It's been on the market for a few months now, but it's not like it came out last week. And in my usual way, it took me a little while to figure out how I felt about it and what I wanted to say about it. I like to say I'm thorough, but not timely. So, if you're wanting to know if the FrSky X-Lite is for you, I am ready to tell you. Stay tuned. A product like the FrSky X-Lite makes my job as a reviewer really freaking easy because it's a really good radio. It's just really good, and it's at a really good price. So there you go. It's great. Go buy it. No. What makes my job as a reviewer really easy is when a product is good, but then there's one or two things about it that make it polarizing, because it makes it really easy for me to say, you should buy it, and you don't even think about it. And that's what I'm going to say about the FrSky X-Lite. But before I dive in and tell you what those characteristics are, let's just take a quick look at the radio. When I first held the FrSky X-Lite in my hands, I thought to myself, FrSky, you have got a winner here. It is so comfortable in the hand. It looks like a game controller for an Xbox or a PlayStation, right? And there's a reason they all kind of look like this. That's just kind of how it fits in the human hand. It was way smaller than I thought it was going to be, and it's smaller than most other transmitters, which some people are going to find, they're going to be like, oh, that's not what I'm used to. But if you're looking for more of a game controller experience, and especially if you have smaller hands, a lot of people say, look, I have kids who fly, and the normal controllers are just too big for their little hands. Well, this is certainly something to consider. The finish it's really good. It's got a really nice matte plastic finish. It feels smooth. It's nice to the touch, not nice in a weird way, just nice. It's got this grippy plastic here on the back to give you a little bit of extra grip for your hands. The switches are really nice and clicky and tactile. They don't have that kind of looseness in them, just a little bit of looseness that the regular Tyrannus switches have. These switches here are pretty small and are a little hard to get at. And normally this is a 2-position and this is a 3-position. So normally I would have my arm switch here on a 2-position switch, and I found it a little bit difficult to be confident that I could disarm rapidly in the event of like a crash. I asked FrSky about it, and they said the reason they made these switches so small was so that if you were holding it kind of like this, that you could easily get your finger up here without accidentally snagging on this switch. And I guess I see the logic there, but for me, I found that although these switches everything about them is really ergonomic except the really stubby size, I personally might like them to be a little bit bigger. The gimbals are Hall effect gimbals. So all the good things about Hall effect gimbals. Oh, if you don't know what that is, I've got a video back from when FrSky first released Hall effect gimbals, the M9 gimbals for the Tyrannus. But the gist of it is that Hall effect gimbals don't have a sliding mechanism like a potentiometer to wear out. So they are much smoother and they last a lot longer. To me, that's the big advantage. If you've ever noticed that when your transmitter is brand new, the channels center perfectly, and then as your transmitter gets a little older, suddenly the channels stop recentering exactly right, that's your potentiometer in your gimbal's wearing out, and a Hall effect gimbal won't do that. So that's good. The sticks, the length on the sticks is a little confusing to me. Now, the sticks do have adjustable length, so we're just talking about the stock length here. I find that for thumbs, the sticks are just a little bit too long, for me at least. I might like them to be a little shorter, because when my hand is, I'm holding the radio, right, I have to, see my thumb is just a little bit cramped here, and then as I get to full extension, okay, so now let's make full extension kind of comfortable. That's not so bad, I can get there, but I think I might like the sticks to be, see, look, I'm just having to reach just a little bit over here. I might like the sticks to be just a little shorter. And of course, the disadvantage of that is that shorter sticks are going to give you just a little bit less precision, so there's a trade-off there, but with the different stick lengths you can put on, you can make that decision for yourself. Continuing our look at the physical characteristics of the radio, we get down here to the buttons on the front. And here, I feel like FrSky has made kind of a weird decision, because this D-pad makes perfect sense if what you're doing is playing a video game. And we're all used to, well, those of us who play video games are used to using the D-pad in sort of non-traditional ways. The D-pad is often used for things other than indicating directions. You might use up to select one weapon, or right or left to scroll between various options. So basically the D-pad is really just for momentary switches. It's not really a directional pad per se. You're not going to play Tetris on it. Could you play Tetris on this with the D-pad? Somebody make it happen. Okay, moving on. And that addresses one of the complaints people have about the X-Lite, which is that, oh, there's no momentary switches. So for those who like to use their momentary switch as a pre-arm, as a two-stage arming switch for safety, what can you do? Well, the answer is that you can make like this switch be your arm switch, and then this is your momentary switch, press up to arm and down to disarm. And some people have done that. But it is a little strange. I mean, it just feels like FrSky went, hey, let's make something that looks like a video game controller. Okay. Yeah, well, it's got to have a D-pad here and a joystick there. It's a little weird.
Welcome to OpenTX.
As you can see there, the X-Lite does run OpenTX. And if you get it, you're going to want to install the latest version of OpenTX on it, because at least as far as I know, it's shipping with a pre-release version of OpenTX 2.2.2, but the actual final release of OpenTX 2.2.2 is out, and you should probably go ahead and upgrade it when you very first take it out of the box. I made a video showing every single step of how to do that, including installing the drivers and downloading OpenTX and the SD card, every step. So if you want to know how to upgrade OpenTX on this radio, or actually, little secret, it's the same process for all the other Taranis OpenTX radios, go check out that video. There's a link down in the video description. So it runs OpenTX, and I will say that using this joystick to navigate the menus is actually pretty frickin' good. Honestly, what am I doing here? There you go. It's pretty frickin' good. I like it better than any other. Like, I've used the scroll wheel on the QX7 or the up-down buttons on the X9D. The joystick is really nice. There's a little bit about it that is unexpected. Like, how do I get out of here? I hit the exit button. There we go. Exit. Yeah, exit. Okay. Like, to get into the menu, you hold to the right to get into the menu. That's the menu button on your X9D. It's the equivalent of it. But being able to just joystick around here is really nice, and I totally dig it. FrSky have really put a lot of thought into the physical interfaces of the X-Lite. They've got an audio interface here if you want to use a headset for hearing your audio alerts, or I guess you can play WAV files too. The SD card is right here, and it very easily pops in and out. You don't have to do, I just clipped my fingernail, so I kind of can't get my fingernail in there. But there you go. See, it comes in and out very easily. You don't have to open up the radio like you do on the Taranis X9D. So similar to the QX7. There you go. A USB connection here, so it can be used as a game controller with your computer, so it can easily be used with a simulator. Just plug right in here and you're good to go. And there's a little connection here which is used for flashing firmware on receiver modules. Just plug a receiver in here and you can update the firmware on the receiver without ever going to your computer. Here on the back of the radio is the smartest thing that FrSky has ever freaking done to a transmitter. Please do this on every transmitter you make forever. And those of you who fly Spectrum radios will see this and go, thanks, yeah, duh, we've had this forever. I know. Don't you go ahead, gloat. These screws right here and here are used to adjust the spring tension and the centering on the gimbals. So you don't have to open up the freaking radio case to adjust the spring tension in the gimbals. It's amazing. And in fact, the radio comes from the factory without this screw installed. And I'm going to take it out so you can see what it's like. Take it all the way out. When I first got this, I was like, what the heck is this screw for? And so here's the screw. It is a grub screw, is what that's called. And what it's for is to select whether this stick is centered or not. Now you can see here it's spring loaded. See, it's recentering, the throttle's recentering. So when you first get it, it's going to have centering on both sticks, and you're going to pick one of these two sides, and you're going to install the grub screw and screw it all the way in to remove the centering on that side, whether you want to fly mode 1 or mode 2. So as I insert this, just keep screwing it in, that spring tension is going to slowly be removed. And it's almost all the way. There we go. See, now we're no longer centering the stick. And that's great. These two screws then adjust the tension on the gimbals. Up at the top of the radio here, we've got an RPSMA connector for an external antenna. And they've conveniently provided you with a nice little rubber plug so you don't have to stare at that thing, and it protects it if you're not using it. And the first thing many people do is go, screw the internal antenna on this thing. Of course I'm going to use an external antenna. It must be better. But actually, oh, by the way, this has an internal antenna in case it wasn't obvious. Yeah. The internal antenna is really freaking good. And this was also true for the X10, which I tested pretty extensively. The range on the internal... It's hard to do range testing in a rigorous, controlled way because there's so many variables. But I can say that the range on the internal antenna, in my experience, is as good or better than the range on my Taranis X9D with an external dipole antenna. And that was also true for the Horus X10. Whatever FrSky is doing with their internal antennas, it's pretty freaking good. And you don't have to put an external antenna on here if you don't want to. And in fact, I don't recommend that you do, unless you're looking to do some really long-range stuff with like a patch antenna or something. And that's great. I still use the Taranis X9D as my primary radio for reasons, which we'll get to. But having to worry about breaking off that stupid antenna every time I put it in the backpack, it's such a low-grade stress on my mind. And again, you Spectrum users out there can laugh it up because you've got the nice sturdy antenna. Yes, I know. But yeah, very nice to be able to just toss this thing in a backpack if you want to, or maybe a little protection for the gimbals or something, and you're good to go. As long as we're talking about things that are great about the FrSky X-Lite, I also want to address latency. FrSky have designed the X-Lite to be a very low latency transmitter, and the reasons why FrSky protocols are not low latency on other radios like the Taranis X9D, that's actually kind of a big question. It has to do with the S-Bus protocol, it has to do with the design of the radio, and it has to do with the design of OpenTX. But the bottom line is that the latency on the FrSky X-Lite is very low. How low is it? I've got some test results from Andrei Mironov, who also goes by D-Hertz. He's a Betaflight developer, and he does a lot of hardware testing as well. He's been testing the end-to-end latency of the FrSky X-Lite. In other words, from the moment you flip the switch or move the gimbal to the moment that the signal comes out the receiver, right? The actual end-to-end latency. And he's measured with both F-port and S-Bus latency averages around 15 milliseconds. Now, 16 milliseconds is not as fast as something like Crossfire. Crossfire gets down to about 6 to 8 millisecond latency, but it does put FrSky on par with FlySky and their iBus protocol. The iBus users have really been lording it over the S-Bus users in some ways because S-Bus latency is so much higher than iBus latency. But with the FrSky X-Lite, you can use S-Bus, you can use F-Port, and you can have that 16 millisecond latency just as fast as some of the fastest 2.4 gigahertz protocols out there. Still not as fast as Crossfire, though. But you gotta ask, guys, you gotta ask. Okay, you make the argument. S-Bus is, I think it's around 40, 45 milliseconds on average, which is, compared to 16, that's a pretty big difference. But from 16 milliseconds down to 8 milliseconds, you really think you can feel that? I think it's pretty debatable. So that's a lot of good stuff about the FrSky X-Lite, and that's a lot of reasons why you might want to buy it. What's not to love about it? The first thing to be annoyed about is the batteries. Here's where the batteries are. And this is clever. They come out and they are not 18650, they're 18550. So they're kind of an oddball sell. But okay, if you have the internet, then you can order 18550 cells. If you're in an area where you don't have easy access to the internet, you can probably get 18650 size cells, especially with vaping getting as popular as it is. They're just everywhere. 18550s are much harder to source locally if you need to do that. And the other thing that's a little annoying is that there's no way to charge this without taking the cells out. And I like to just plug my radio in at, well, I have a 3-cell LiPo in my Tyrannus, and I charge it once a month, if that. So it's not such a hassle to have to kind of take the back off and take the LiPo out, plug it in into a balance charger, and charge it. With something like this, it easily lasted a whole day of flying. Battery life is not an issue, but you are going to be topping it off at night, especially if you're, at an event and you're flying all day or something. And sure, you can just charge up a bunch of these cells. If you need to go for a long day or a weekend, you can just have a bunch of these in your backpack and they're pre-charged and you just swap them out. But having to take the ends off like this is so, I don't know. I just want to plug it in. I just wish I could just plug it in. So it's a little bit bothersome that that's how you do it. But I would live with it. I would live with that. I could do it. Here's the number one reason that you shouldn't buy this radio if you are a pinch flyer. In my opinion, don't even consider it if you're a pinch flyer. And I say that because I really, when I first held this radio, I was so impressed with how comfortable it was in my hand. I was really kind of thinking, oh, is this going to be my new radio? But the thing is, when you pinch, there's just no comfortable way to get your full stick throw. It's just impossible to hold your hands in such a way that you can get your full stick throw without it being really uncomfortable and while giving access to the switches. There's just, like, if you kind of cradle the bottom like this and bring your hands around to the center, then you kind of don't you can't get to the edge really. And if you kind of lift your hands up to the side and kind of come down from the top, then, well, number one, the radio isn't held securely and there's no way. This radio is 100% made for thumb pilots. And if you are a thumb pilot and it's looking good to you, go for it. But if you're a pincher or even a hybrid pincher, in my opinion, don't try it. I played this for about 3 hours on a simulator, really giving it a fair shot. And by the time I was done, my hands were so cramped and uncomfortable, forget about it. The other reason I think it doesn't work well for pinchers is that it doesn't come prepared for a neck strap. And when I use a pinch radio, I'm almost using it a little bit like a tray radio. It hangs from the neck strap and I kind of support it in my hands, but I'm mostly kind of hanging over the top, letting it hang from the neck strap, and it's just not set up for that. And there is an accessory you can get from FrSky that clips on here and converts it for use with a neck strap, and maybe that would make a difference to me. Maybe that would change my mind. I haven't tried it, but for now I have to say, don't even bother if you're a pincher. But if you're a thumber, it's pretty freaking good. So there you go. That is my review of the FrSky X-Lite. And there's one more thing to say about it. FrSky sent me one of these radios. And then after they sent it to me, Banggood sent me one. Sometimes Banggood just spontaneously sends me things that they think I'll like. I don't know why they do that. Do they not do that for you guys? Huh. Maybe that's pretty weird. I wonder why. But since I have 2 of these radios, and since I'm not going to use either of them as a pincher, may as well give them away, right? I thought you'd be okay with that. So I'm going to give one of these radios away here on this video. You can enter by leaving 1 comment and 1 comment only below. Your comment is your entry and you only get 1 entry. So if you leave 2 comments, you will be disqualified. I'm going to do another giveaway over on my Patreon. And by the way, in case you didn't know, I do this as a full-time job, and I have a Patreon, which is a way you can support me by giving me a couple dollars a month. And for my patrons who subscribe at the $5 a month or higher level, they get access to some giveaways of stuff like this. So if you're a patron, you can enter both. You can enter over on Patreon, and you can enter here to win the FrSky X-Lite. And yeah, and I guess if I'm giving away the X-Lites, I got to give away the R9 module too, because it does no good if you're using the Tyrannus. So I wonder who's going to get the R9, the regular subscribers or the patrons? Regular subscribers or the patrons? You know what? Let's do the regular subscribers. Come on, the patrons get so much. Okay, so leave 1 comment below, 1 comment only. I am turning on moderation on the comments. That's not because I hate free speech. It's just because it keeps me from getting 3 million notifications on my phone every time you guys leave a comment. So you will only see your comment. You will not see anybody else's. Look down in the video description for the full rules and restrictions as required by YouTube. And the other thing that's in the video description, if you like, is an affiliate link to buy this, because if you've decided you want to buy it and I helped you make a buying decision, I'd love for you to use that affiliate link and give me a small percentage of your purchase. It doesn't cost you anything and it really helps me out. Thank you guys so much. How am I going to see your questions? I'll try and pay attention to your questions in the moderation, even though I'm moderating the comments. That's the only thing about doing giveaways like this that I hate, is that because I moderate the comments, I don't get to see your questions and answer them and talk to you. But I'm giving you free stuff, so I guess you'll be okay with it. Thanks for watching, guys. Happy flying.